War Eagle Auburn fans, and welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together, we sit down, and we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn family spectrum. We're always heavy on the sports here on this channel, but if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching live or on the replay. We'll take you however we can get you. We just appreciate you being here and just spending a few minutes of your time with us to talk about what we love about Auburn, even during periods like this where the topic may not be so happy, because yet again on Monday night, you know the drill. It is Auburn football season, and we have to break down another game in Auburn football's 2021 season. And for the third week in a row, it is not good. It's not good. We'll have discussions as to whether this is worse or better or not at all in either category. We'll do all that tonight. Break down grades for every unit: offense, defense, special teams, and just kind of put this one finally to bed before we move on to the most important week of the year, which is the Iron Bowl week. But for now, Auburn versus South Carolina game breakdown. And you know, every single time I do one of these, whenever he's available, I like to have on a special guest. And I've brought back our good friend, Mr. Austin Scott. I didn't even see it in the... I was not ready for that. Here, let me pull the curtain back just a little bit for folks. I can see Austin before we go live, but he's down this little corner before I bring him on. I didn't even look down there to anticipate this, so this was great. Thank you, sir. I'm glad you have props now for our show. You good?
Well, we're making it. We're making it. It's not the end of the world.
Hey, if you can't have fun laughing at yourself, then what's the whole point of this, right?
That's exactly right. It'll be a fun time talking about it, but yeah, it wasn't fun watching it. That's for sure.
How you feeling? Like where are you at right now and everything?
You know, you and I have talked, and you've talked with the commenters and everything that 7-5 is about what you expected. I was about the same range. It just stinks knowing that after these last two, especially, it could have been better, and it looks like it's going to head towards 6-6 now. But that's not that much different from 7-5 to me, and that's about what I expected. That's what you're going to get in the transition year, and injuries haven't helped. But this is what comes with the territory.
So, what is it about 8-4 and 7-5? Like, what's that marker that makes one better than the other? Because I agree with you. I think that there's like this 7-5 and 6-6 are basically this. I see them as, even though they're technically successful because you're bowl eligible, it really isn't. But what is it about 8-4 that kind of makes it doable? Any idea on why that is?
Yeah, I don't really know. For me, I guess it's always been that 9. 9 feels like the more successful number. And with 8-4, I guess you get a chance to go to 9.
Yeah.
8
one step
just
closer.
And 4 losses instead of 5. I don't know. I think it just sounds better. But in all honesty, there's no difference unless you're winning something. So
that is very true. Very, very true. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. While I'm not like devastated by this because I anticipated some of this, I didn't think it would be at the hands of South Carolina. Yeah. So that's where I come in on this whole disappointment thing and frustration thing. And then obviously a lot of people as well. And so we're going to hear from a lot of them tonight. So as we kind of move into that portion of the show, I want to give you a couple reminders here. Booster Club members, you have access to the exclusive call-in link tonight. So call into that at any point, and you can sit with us, hang out with us, and join on the discussion. Maybe you can give us our own therapy session as we talk about some of these things tonight. We'll also hear from our sponsor a little bit later in the broadcast. So that'll be coming up in a little bit, and you'll have your chance to break down all of the units with us as we go throughout the stream tonight. As you're coming into the stream, do a couple things for us. Smash that like button if you can. Also, make sure that you are posting where you're watching from, city, state, international, with a War Eagle. We can still War Eagle even when it's this bad right now. A couple of familiar faces that we already see here in the chat. We got Big Simp in the house, Jordan Carter, John Stokes, channel member, Booster Club member. Thank you, sir. He says D for disappointing. We'll get there. We'll get there. Joe Rudolph, good to see you. Corey's here. A lot of familiar faces already assembled here tonight. Make sure you're sharing out on social media too, so we can make sure we let everybody know that we're live. I know a lot of people are probably hiding from this fact tonight, but you can't hide from the truth, you know? You got to talk about it. You got to confront it. And sometimes it's a little bit disappointing. Big Simp says, not disappointed about the wins and losses. This is a transition year. I'm just disappointed in the play calling. Tank got mad and ran pissed after the third down call for a pass. Can I ask you an honest question, Austin? Are we reading too much into that? I mean, into the whole Tank being an angry thing? Are we just seeing what we want to see, or do you think it's legitimate?
Yeah, I think as soon as they zoomed in on his face, all I could think about was last year. Anytime Bo Nix had a disagreement with Chad Morris or someone like that, it was like the cameras were ready. I
Right.
think back to, gosh, I think it was Herm Edwards talking about, if you post, he was talking to a group of rookies at the NFL draft. He said, you be careful what you post, and he put it as no. If it's juicy, ESPN's got it.
Right.
And they are looking for the content that is helpful to them. And so I think while Tank was frustrated, of course, I think while Tank was frustrated, I would be willing to bet a lot of players are frustrated all across the country when they don't get the ball. Do I think he should have got the ball? Yeah, we'll get to that. But I don't see him mad as like this, oh my gosh, Tank is upset, what are we going to do type thing that's never happened before. It stinks, and I don't think it was the right call either, but I don't think it's something completely out of the blue.
Yeah, I just, to me, it feels like now there's so much grasping at, and I would be happy too if I was tanking that scenario. You know, my team is just decided, whether that's coaching or whatever, decide not to lean on me. I'd be frustrated, but I think we're taking in the moment things sometimes and extrapolating them out to the worst possible scenario. And in a season like this, who knows? It could be right. There's a lot of rumors swirling around right now, so you just never know these days. Rodney Fuqua, good to see you. Thanks for being here. And of course, the good old Clint Richardson's in the house from the Uniform Database. All right, so let's not even waste any time with this, Austin. 21-17. Auburn cannot finish in every facet of the game. And I think we'll get into this discussion here, but it'll be interesting to say, whereas like last week, you probably could have put it all in the defense mainly because they gave up so many points in a row, so many touchdowns in a row. Here, it's not really the case because the offense, they kind of gave the offense a chance and they couldn't respond. Now, there are reasons for that, right? But at the same time, you know, it still is a little bit frustrating. Devin, good to see you. Thanks for being here. All right, well, let's start off with this. Quarterback. I think it's the big topic because Bo is out for the season. And, you know, there was a huge contingency of Auburn fans from the very get-go, because we got to have a controversy, that wanted TJ Finley to start. You know, there were various ridiculous reasons in their minds why it was happening, whether it was daddy things or whatever. That's just stupid. I'm just not even going to bother with that. But TJ Finley finally got his chance to officially start and take the reins. What do you think about his play overall? Was he a factor, a non-factor? If he was a factor, was he a good factor? Just give me some idea what you thought about TJ Finley's play.
Sure. Early on, I think they wanted him to be a big factor. We saw some deep shots early on, and TJ's got a heck of an arm that can allow him to hit those. But he wasn't hitting them, and they were off kilter a little bit. So I think after that, the plays adjusted to help TJ get in a groove. But it still wasn't anything kind of extraordinary or out of the success of that we a lot of people expected. So 17 of 32 for 188 and one touchdown. It was about average for me. So I if we're getting into grades right now, I had C- for TJ, just because I didn't expect a whole lot. And he kind of met those. But it just wasn't this crazy game that I thought he could have against South Carolina. But yeah, TJ played fine to me. It wasn't anything amazing, but I also think it definitely shows that, the right quarterback has been starting all year long.
I think that's a fair thing to say still. I think that it doesn't take anything away from TJ's ability. It doesn't take anything away from TJ's preparation during the week. It just means that the whole package was better for Bo. And you're seeing a little bit of that, where, I think the one thing that everybody loved to knock Bo on all the time is he overthrows balls. Well, how many overthrown balls did TJ have in this game? And some of that you can honestly give him a little grace for, because he hasn't started as much as Bo has, right? Even at
Right.
if you count his time at LSU, Bo's still miles ahead of him in terms of starting time. So I'm going to grant him that. But, you need to be consistent in criticism. If you're going to be upset with Bo overthrowing people, TJ's done a good portion of his time that he's seen throwing the ball this year. But in the same token, as I said from the very beginning, when Bo went down and he became a starting quarterback, anything that happens really isn't his fault at this point, but he's being thrown into a very, very poor situation. His overall stats, 17 of 32, 188 yards, 5.9 yard average, 1 touchdown. QBR, if you really worry about these things, 27.7. I don't know QBR ratings that well, but I know that's not good. It was not good. What do you guys think? Grade him right now in the chat. You said what was your grade?
I said C-, and you brought up his stats right there. I think another thing that we kind of took for granted maybe is Bo has that ability to run, and with this offensive line, it helps him out, helps the run game overall, and opens up his own passing abilities. TJ got out of one kind of pocket collapse, if I remember right, but just not naturally gifted as much of a runner as Bo, and so I think that kind of showed. But he did get. I was impressed, and we'll get with the O-line. He stayed in the pocket long enough to rack up some yardage. But I think all that played into it's just very different quarterbacks for Auburn from Bo and now TJ, and a bad time to kind of have to switch to the other one.
Hey, and look, credit goes to TJ for not looking inept, and it's South Carolina, right? It's not like his first game was against Alabama. So I find very few things to be upset with TJ about in this game. And I also find very few things to be excited about him in this role, which is, I kind of think, if you're being reasonable, what you should have expected. So for me, TJ sits at about a C for me, because I didn't expect much. And he was not a problem, but he also wasn't a huge factor in us having success, which is what I was kind of thinking there. Dusty, I have sent you the link. I saw your comment here in the chat. Again, try that one. I apologize if the link's not working. That happens every once in a while. We got C. Looks like most everybody kind of agrees. Hey, C range. We got a good crowd here that's being very reasonable.
And Bryan Harsin today said he thought he did solid, which I would attribute to about average as a C. I don't think that we're crazy off or positively or negatively on that.
Quick, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because this is a little preview to what I discuss in my weekly videos. But what I found interesting was he pointed out that it's so important for the quarterback to prepare a certain way during the week, and then he quickly made a statement at the end. That's not a comment on TJ not doing those things or doing those things well, but I just find it interesting that you'd even bring that up. So I wonder if he almost kind of said too much of what they've been seeing in practice, and then realized, well, I don't want to do that to TJ, and kind of pulled that back. It was just interesting kind of commentary, I thought. All right. We got our first caller in from the Booster Club tonight. Dusty, what is up, my man? How you doing? A little slow on the connection, but hey, that's the internet.
Good afternoon, guys. Where
you go? How you doing, buddy? How you feeling?
I'm good, man. I'm hoping my Bucks can turn things around for me football wise tonight. They're on a 2-game losing streak. Y'all know what's going on with Auburn.
What did you think about Tom Brady's press conference the other last week? I think it was, when he just kind of answered one question, just walked off the little stage there. Or did you see that?
Yeah, I think Bryan Harsin would serve well to do that too.
Oh, Dusty is raw tonight, and I love it. Hey, I think at some points, I can understand that it would probably be best. I did find it interesting today. One of the beat writers tried to kind of, and the way he said it too, the beat writers was trying to say, hi, how are you? And it was kind of being like overly chummy. And Bryan didn't even acknowledge it. He just was like, dude, why? I'm not about this life. So if there was going to be a walk-off moment, Dusty, that might have been it right there. I'd love to see a coach do that sometime. Nick Saban probably be the only one that would do it, but hey, here we are. All right, hey, we just got done grading TJ. Dusty, what do you think about TJ?
I give him a C plus. Like,
Okay.
to me, really, I don't know what to point to in this game. Like, you ran the ball well. The defense has struggled or whatever, but at the end of the day, you only gave up 21 points. Like, that should be enough in the year 2021. You should be able to score. You got to score more than 21 points. You have to expect to be able to do that. So that should be enough to win.
Right.
TJ is kind of like the whole team to me. Other than Tank was, obviously he balled out, but just average. Wasn't good, wasn't bad.
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad because I kind of, part of me, as much as a Bo, defender and apologist as I am, I kind of wanted TJ to ball out because I love being proved wrong about that, my opinion about that, because if I'm wrong, Auburn succeeds. And so when we saw that great start with him and the offense, especially with Tank, the way he was getting off started, I thought, well, maybe we're on to something here, and I think that's we're all looking for that little glimmer of hope this year, the way things are trending. And it seemed like that might have happened or was starting to happen, but then we all really know how it happened there. Let's move on to running backs, and Dusty can stay with us here and talk a little bit about that. This will be a little bit happier of a topic. When you want to start us off with your grade and thoughts on Tank?
Yeah, A plus. Please don't leave us.
Short and sweet to the point. I agree. I understand that people are very worried about him leaving us. That's the whole thing with this transfer portal thing. It'll suck you in there and, never let you out again. But I think the one thing that's making me hopeful that Tank isn't mad enough to go somewhere is because I think he knows he's got a pretty sweet deal here at Auburn where he is the guy. I mean, there's no one really sniffing at his heels to take his job, even though he's had a rather, I think it's fair to say, pedestrian year so far as a overall. But that's the one thing that I think makes me not worried that he's going to go anywhere. But I could be wrong. But you got an A there. What do you think, Austin?
Yeah, I had an A plus as well. I think Tank had 22 carries, 164 yards. I think he probably should have had more carries and would have gained more yards. Seems like the same issue as last year's South Carolina game is Tank probably should have gotten the ball more and didn't. And that stinks. I think I had the carries as 3 times in the fourth quarter, and that's just not good. That's not good. Not when when you've had the year Tank has had and not a lot of success, and then he's on, and it's like that's when you throw some gasoline on the fire, and we didn't do it. I'm sure there's a lot of blame that can go around for that, but Tank himself as the grade running back A plus for me. Yeah. That's what we all have expected all year from Tank.
And isn't that nice though? Because we've talked a lot about this season where Tank's, we've just had to give him like a flat C, maybe a B minus, because he did things, but it almost felt like even with the bad offensive line play that he could do more. And this was it. This was what I was wanting to see all season from him, where, you're not getting the best of help from your offensive line, but you know that at this point. So you have got to fight for every inch. And he did that. I mean, what a game from him. And this isn't where he busted off a ton of big runs. This is him just taking a hit and rolling with it, or absorb. I call it Sean Shivers rolls with the hits, which is what I love about him. But Tank it's like he almost absorbs that and redirects it elsewhere. So for me, Tank A plus on the day, and he's the brightest spot on a very dismal day.
Absolutely.
Overall. Let's do wide receivers now. I'm interested to see everybody's opinions on this. We'll start with Dusty again. What do you think? Who stood out to you? Good, bad? What'd you think?
I give him a B minus, because you didn't have, I guess, Kobe's your best receiver. You had, like, I'm not trying to throw shade. It's just,
right.
Consistency matters. That goes into what kind of player you are. He's the most talented for sure. But so you didn't have Kobe. So I mean, it was like, I think Shed I know he had over 100 yards, 8-9 catches. It was a great game for him. Considering the circumstances, like, I think they played well. There's not, like I said, there's not one area of the team in this game, other than special teams, which has been a thing all season, that you can really point to and be frustrated with it, in my opinion. This to me really just seemed like a loss that was on the coaches. Like,
yeah,
that I know everyone's upset about the fourth down call, which in my opinion, you just punt it there. There's not even, I don't even think you run it. You just punt the ball because you're winning the game 14-7. But if you are going to do it, obviously you don't throw it to a tight end deep with a backup quarterback when you've already done that stupid crap versus Penn State. Like, at what point do you learn? You preach 4th and goal mindset. You've been preaching it for the year. You've been the coach now, and then we get in the game and you don't do it.
Yeah.
So what is it? What are we? And
Well,
if that's Bobo, that's Bobo. That's fine. But you're the head
Right.
coach, dude, and you have an offensive background or whatever. When you hear that ridiculous play call that everyone that knows anything about football is stupid, you come in and you say, "Nah, dude, we're handing the ball to Tank."
Yeah. Now, and look,
That's
if you're
my
gonna
receiver
throw
grade.
it, if you're gonna throw it though, too, Dusty, like I agree with you. You run the ball in that situation if you're going to do that. But if you're gonna throw it, throw a high percentage throw. That's not a high percentage throw, right? That hasn't had a lot of success. I think Shanker's the only one that's seen that happen for him maybe once over the top like that. You throw an out route to Shed, or when Kobe's not there, obviously, but Shed's done that a bunch of times this season. And maybe that was the original plan. He wasn't open. We don't know. But don't put that option there. The option should have been roll out, try to get it with your feet if you're going to try to throw it, or look for that kind of out route that's going out there, a little short out route. But obviously, I'm not paid to make those type of decisions or mistakes. So Big Simp is a big fan of Dusty tonight. Let's see. Shed Jackson A, overall B. I'm going to sit with you guys. I think I find I think there were a couple of drops here or there, but that's kind of par for the course this year. So I'm just going to go with a solid B on this one. Probably did enough to impact the game in a positive way in my mind. What do you think, Austin?
Yeah, I had C+. Shed was really the only bright spot from the receiving core for me. I bring it down just a little bit just because in past weeks we've been lumping the tight ends with these guys and pass catchers. And they were no catches from the tight ends. And I think Shanker's been just super reliable for us all year. And just really only 2 targets. I don't think it's necessarily they didn't catch it, they just weren't targeted, which is odd to me. But yeah, the receivers just, it wasn't all that great, but it wasn't, anything better than I really expected or have come to expect from them this year. Thought Shed had a really great game, needed it with Kobe out, and definitely his highest career reception yardage, best game of his Tigers career. So just a C+ for me, nothing great. And I was listening to Dusty rant and I'm all about it. Like it's just, I got on my soapbox last week and I'm in the same mindset. I don't understand the call. I'm with Dusty. I would have punted anyway, but if you're going to go for it, if that comes through the headset, in my opinion, it's the buck stops with the head coach. And same on the 2-point conversion rollout on a broken ankle for Bo Nix last week. You just can't do that. And
don't get Austin started on that again this week.
All that said, just boneheaded decisions that I don't understand. Thought it put our guys in not a great position to win. And that is the ultimate goal as a coach, is to put the players you have in the best position to win. And I think they failed their players at that this week.
I think they did. They probably did. All
right,
let's.
How many times are we gonna do? Because I'm about to go, fellas.
You're good.
How many times you break down the press conferences every week? So it was 2 or 3 weeks ago when Harsin talked about, if we can't learn to quit committing penalties on special teams, then we'll just take it at the 25. Okay, well, guess what, buddy? We cannot return the kick without committing some kind of penalty. Like, I
agree.
He says stuff, and then I see different stuff on the field. So I'm not saying fire Harsin or anything like that.
But you're frustrated
because
you're frustrated. You should be.
But it's just like, come on, man. The stuff you talk about, you're not doing it. And he knows more about football than me. Obviously, I mean, I'm not naive. However, I do know that some of this stuff is ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think
we got the ball with 5 minutes to go, and then we didn't hand it to Tank. That's you bleed the clock right there. And instead, Demetrius Robertson gets a carry.
And I think a good point to what you're saying, Dusty, is, I'm always someone that runs to the defense of coaches and players for the most part. This is one of those games where I don't know if you've noticed this in my initial commentary, like on the reaction. So I'm trying to play devil's advocate here and come to the defense of Coach Harsin's, but I'm not having a lot of ground to stand on this one. Like this,
we see it. It is what it is.
It is what it is. So, yeah, I love your perspectives, and you have a right to be frustrated. We all have a right to be frustrated. So I hear you, man. But thank you for joining us. Hope your Bucks do good tonight.
Got to get off the snide.
Good to see you, Dusty.
Good to see you, buddy.
All right,
War Eagle.
Appreciate it, man. All right, War Eagle, guys.
War Eagle. That's awesome. Good to hear from Dusty again, one of our Booster Club members. We appreciate his support as always, and all of you who are Booster Club members and channel members, and just here in general. We appreciate all that. All right, let's do this. Let's finish out offense. We got one more unit to do on that one, and I want to hear from everybody here. So you can go ahead and grade the offensive line. I'll start us off because they're my favorite group to critique. I love critiquing them so much. But I'm trying to look here on individual stats or team stats here because I can't remember how many sacks we had. Do you remember off the top of your head?
One is all I had.
One sack. You get one sack a game. Even NFL, they give up multiple sacks a game. So one sack in the game, a less mobile quarterback. Tank, whether it was all him, they still gave him something to work with. B. I think I probably could push it up to close to an A, maybe a B plus, but I'd hate to get myself up to that point on on this offensive line and have my hopes dashed again next week. So I think they deserve credit this week that they did enough, and they had a couple mixed and match players that were working with injuries right now. It's injuries across the board. They did enough. But was it good? And was there enough good enough? Clearly not, because the offense didn't score. And that's not just the offensive line thing. That's TJ, wide receivers, and even Tank, as much as he did. It clearly was not enough. And some of that, again, was the coach's decision. So I'll grade them at a B. What everybody else thinks they can share in the chat window right now. But what do you think grading out the offensive line?
We're on the same page. I had B plus. I was just shocked with, like you said, a less mobile quarterback. I'm guessing it was a hammered home point of emphasis this week in practice. Like, guys, Bo is not going to bail you out and not going to be running around and trying to escape. Like, you have to. They are key to that game, and they held up. They held up, and I was surprised. I thought, like you mentioned, whether it was Tank or not, Tank hit holes that were open. There were holes that were open and he didn't hit, but there were holes that we haven't seen. Now, granted, this is South Carolina, and yes, they beat us, but that team has so much less talent than Auburn. But overall, the O-line had, I think, one of their best games of the year. And I don't know, I don't have my past grades, but I would be willing to bet this is a B plus is probably about as high as I've given the offensive line.
I feel like I gave them an A minus one time, and I forget, and it was real early on. It probably was like week 1.
Yeah, right.
Hey, everybody go back to week 1 and 2 last week. At the beginning of the season, we were feeling pretty good about this team. Of course, as I cautioned people, we were playing Akron, we were playing Alabama State. The Penn State game was going to give us a good indication of where and I still believe that the Penn State game is a good indication of what this team is. They have the potential to beat some, and I know Penn State's faltered a little bit. There's some reasons for that, injuries as well they've been plagued by, but they have the potential to beat the Penn States. They can push the top 10 level if they're not getting in their own way and dealing with some injuries and things like that. So that's kind of the way I'm trying to remind myself to look at. So overall offense, what do you think, Austin, if you had to kind of grade that one out completely?
C minus, just underwhelming, and should have done a lot better against this kind of team or against South Carolina with a weaker opponent. But just inconsistencies have been there the last 3 games, and they showed up even more in a crazy environment on the road. with a lot of injuries, starters on the line, at the receiving core, and obviously at quarterback. So I wish I could say my expectations were higher. I'm going into it. I thought they'd win, but I thought the offense would be struggle, and so it's about a C- for me.
I'm going to give them probably a C+ overall. I think because the offensive line showed up, Tank showed up. There's TJ was basically exactly what I thought. He'd be a non-factor, and I don't mean that as a slight to him. Again, please, TJ fans that get overly protective of him, I'm not saying that in a negative. I'm just, it wasn't going to be a factor considering what he had to deal with. And the receivers, it showed up and did some things, So for me, I think it's got to be at least a C+, but it was still not enough to get the job done overall. All right, let's take a quick break here and we'll get back to some of your comments and questions that you asked earlier that we didn't get a chance to touch on when we were talking with Dusty. But I want to remind you that our live streams this month are brought to you by manscaped.com. Make sure you are taking advantage of some great items and deals they have over there at manscaped.com using a 20% off plus free shipping code E2C. It's exclusively for us, for you guys to use over at manscaped.com. They are the leaders in men's grooming, and you want to take just an awesome look over there of the wide variety of products they have, whether it's body washes, whether it's shampoos, whether it's their Lawnmower Razor 4.0, which I've been using all of these products all month. And I can tell you, not only does it have my approval, but it also has the approval of the wife. And I'm not making that up. I made sure I got her full approval before I said this message. It has the wife approval. So if you want to take advantage of some of those deals and some of those products, because we all know it's difficult to get a gift for a man these days. Some of us don't even want to answer, hey, I just get me something. Well, you can get something that's going to also be a good product, but it's going to be something they can use and that they will love. Or at manscaped.com, use the code E2C for 20% off plus free shipping. Again, that is code E2C at manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping. Be thankful this holiday season with the gift of Manscaped. All right, back to the show here. We've got defense coming up here, but I do want to take a step back here, make sure that we get some of these comments and that I saw earlier. And I think it's fair for us to answer. Let me find it here. It's way back in the chat. Here it is. Okay, so here's hold on. We're not going to make this show all about this, and we're not even going to really expound on it too much. There's these rumors swirling out there that Coach Harsin may be going to Washington. Washington's got interest in him. Does he have interest in Washington? They're not. The media members out there aren't really biting the bullet on that yet and really driving that. There are a few that they're kind of floating the idea, which is, again, to get clicks and stuff like that, but which is, there may be some validity to it. I would just kind of sit on it for right now and know that the way things are going, it's probably safe to assume that that is at risk, just, in a sense, because things haven't trended the way we wanted. Maybe there would be a mutual parting of the ways. I hope that's not the case in my mind, because, and this is not a statement of I want Coach Harsin gone or I want Coach Harsin to stay. My concern has always been for the program and for the players. And this program and these players cannot go through another transition. And if they do, one of my worst fears of the whole process will have been realized, and us potentially becoming the Tennessee of the SEC, replacing them in a sense. And that's kind of where I'm sitting at on this. Anything you want to share on that, Austin? You don't have to, but if you want to just say any comments on that.
Yeah, I think it's I think naturally him being brought up, whether there's validity to it or not, makes sense. It's Washington. His predecessor at Boise State's Chris Petersen. Chris Petersen went from Boise to Washington, very successful there. It's still there, helping out the search, helping the AD. Harsin's a West Coast guy, and it makes sense. Does him coming to the SEC, not having great success immediately, figuring out it's a little harder than he thought, all those different things, is it possible that he decides to go back closer to home and more comfortable? Sure, I think it's possible, and I don't think it's the end of the world if it happens. I don't think it's amazing if he stays. I just think that that I don't think anything will come of it, truthfully. But I think you're hearing more about it for a reason. I don't think that it's completely absent. But it's just something right now. This is silly season. All of it is silly season, and you're going to hear a million names with a million jobs. Some will have validity, some will have absolutely zero at all. Some are agents trying to get their clients a bonus. It's just how it is. Until Bryan Harsin says he's not going, it's going to be entertained, at least by the media and by the fans and everything. And even if Bryan Harsin says he's not going, how many times do we hear a coach say they're not going? They still bolt. In a pine box.
In a pine box. In a magnolia box.
Never leaving the Miami Dolphins. All of it. It's not worth losing sleep over. Whatever comes will come. All that being said, I don't want to talk about candidates for Auburn when there's literally a man in the job on his first year.
John brings up a great point, and I thought about this too, that no one asked him about this in the press conference. I think you should read a lot into that, because I think everyone's scared to lose credibility if it's not evident. So obviously there's enough. What I always talk about, where there's smoke, there's fire, but to what degree? There's always a fire, but it could be a little ember. It could be a blazing, bonfire. There's an ember out there. The question is how quickly and how far will it become to a bonfire at this point? That's kind of where I would just say that. Corey, first of all, no. Second of all, I think the football team is mad because the basketball team's in the Bahamas, so the football team is stinking it up. It could be. Hey,
Good point.
We'll talk about them tomorrow on tomorrow's live stream at 8 p.m. Be here because that's fun stuff to talk about. All right, defense stuff. Let's talk a little bit about that. Injuries abound there too, and Colby Wooden was out for a half. Right? Was that correct, Austin?
TD Moultrie, but yeah.
Excuse me, TD Moultrie. There, for some reason, and there's no reason why this happens, but TD, Colby Wooden, and Derek Hall, I get them all interchanged for some reason. Don't ask me why.
Interesting.
That completely legitimized me as a podcaster, as an Auburn content creator. I know, but there's just sometimes we have these weird things where I just cannot separate the three of them, and they're just on a rotating thing for me. And I think it's because I have a lot of respect for all of them, and they just they're all good. But here I am messing all of them up at this point. All right, defensive line. What'd you think? How would you grade out the defensive line?
C- is what I had. It just finished 3 sacks, which I thought was huge and thought was hopefully going to be kind of this theme of the night, that they were getting back in there, but then it just kind of tailed off, and there wasn't too much of a dominant performance. We've all seen the headline of Shane Beamer telling after the game in the second half they ran 2 plays, and one of them was an inside zone, and they just gashed our defensive line over and over and over. Their running back averaged 6.8, and then their scat back guy, the receiver / running back guy, was almost 5. He had over 6. The running back had almost 5 yards per carry. And all credit to South Carolina. They won the game.
Yeah.
Shane Beamer. I really like Shane Beamer.
I do too.
But that should not happen with the talent on the field from South Carolina to Auburn, especially the Auburn defensive line. And it did. So I had a C- just because that was just underwhelming.
And we'll talk about the linebackers in a second, but I think some responsibility has to be held there as well. With the talent that we have there as well, just like the defensive line. That's the biggest disappointment here for me, is the fact that they just continued to gash us late in the game. We saw Georgia do that. We saw other teams do that this year as well, and we weren't able to stop it. And it's frustrating to watch that happen over and over and over again. I'm trying to look on here, see if we had any sacks. We did actually have 4 sacks
3,
in the day, believe it.
Or 4.
There you go. It's listed on here. We got Tony Fair showed up.
Big game.
And I even said we need to watch him when I joined the podcast this last week. Iku Leota, again, I remember his, and then Roger McCreary. Oh, we'll talk about Roger in a second. That man, I love that man so much. I don't know. What is it? What do you all think in the chat? How would you grade out the defensive line? C plus.
Sure.
I mean, I have to really, hurt them for the whole run game situation, but it's not all their fault. And they did get a bunch of sacks. Well, the team got a bunch of sacks, but some of the defensive linemen did. I think a C plus is fair for me at this point. All right, linebackers. What do you think?
Linebackers, without Owen Papo again, thought that stunk. Thought it was interesting seeing Cam Riley in there, a younger guy getting a lot of time. Only had like 2-3 tackles, so nothing crazy. But just below average game. Same as the defensive line. It's just I'm flabbergasted that the adjustments don't come from Chandler Wooten and Zakoby McClain, guys who have been there. And to see the same run play happen, whether it was flip to the left, flip to the right, over and over again, and then not get penetration and just hit someone was underwhelming and was disappointing for me. So I had them at a C minus, same as the defensive line.
And you see too, I think again, you said it, the Chandler and Zakoby, they have been here. They should be able to do those things, but now you're getting a real understanding of how big a factor Owen was.
Absolutely.
Owen, obviously, and we knew this, Bo was the leader of the offense. Owen was considered the leader of the defense. And you would want that, right? And typically you see your linebacker, your middle linebacker, even though that's not the type of scheme that we run typically, that's got to be your leader, your quarterback out there in the field. So you're really, really seeing his presence being missed out there. I'm just going to I'll do a C plus too. Chandler Wooten leads the way with 6 tackles from the linebackers. He was matched by Smoke Monday with 6 tackles as well. I just think, linebackers, it's kind of been the same story all season. Without Owen there, they've done their job. But this is the first game where I literally, obviously was frustrated with the defensive line letting guys through. But then I'm expecting the second level to pick them up, especially on some of those, those runs out to the side where they would just get around the edge. And I think, honestly, if we had forced them back into the middle a little bit more often, we might have had just a little bit more success. We did not set the edge, it seemed like, during this game, and defensive line, but also in the linebackers response. So C plus across the board for them. You did enough good things. You held the team to 21 points. That's about all you can ask for with a defense that hasn't been solid all year. Dusty says D minus, a little bit more harsh on them, but I'm not going to disagree with anybody's grades this week because everything's been so all over the board with all of these things. Let's finish the defense out with the defensive backs. What say you, Austin? How do you grade out our beleaguered and much maligned sometime defensive back unit?
Yeah, much like past, I think Roger was really the only bright spot. South Carolina only had just over 150 yards. I want to say 159, 158, something like that. But just like talking about the defensive line and the linebackers, it's how South Carolina moved the ball just with ease and no adjustments. That we're going to grade the whole defense in a minute, and I'll get there. But just miscommunication, struggling with assignments, and no adjustments the entire way. It's just the overall theme of the year for the defense, and not being able to finish. And so they had the interception, which Donovan Kaufman could have caught with a fair catch, I feel like. But that's the bright spot for me with Rodgers' reliability. But I have him as a D plus just because it's just the secondary is just so underwhelming. And against a team like South Carolina, who is like on their 8 millionth quarterback of the year. And I think this guy was a walk-on FCS transfer, and he just lit up. He lit up a secondary with 1 first-round pick on it, who I'm not saying Roger was the one that got lit up, but he's on the field. And then the other guys, you would think Hope could learn something from this guy who's going to be a top 30 pick. And instead, they just get torched by guys who are severely less talented than them. So it's a D plus for me before I get out of hand.
Roger's a bright spot with that sack he just came up. So he's just basically at this point making his tape for the NFL and saying, I can intercept the ball. I create an island around me and I can sack the quarterback. Draft me in the first round. Draft me in the top 10 if you're smart. Now, I don't think he'll get up that high, but hey, if he's got 2 games left as an Auburn Tiger. If he keeps this up and does some amazing things, there's no
especially
telling.
this week. If he can do some big game things this week, yeah.
He'll be matched up against Mechie, I believe. Probably is who
One
he's
of
going to
them.
see. One of them.
Yeah.
I want him on Mechie. That's all I'm
Yeah.
going to say. I need Roger McCreary on Mechie. We'll talk about that though later. Donovan Kaufman, as you brought up, with the 1 turnover, and that one was kind of. That was I think Dusty said we're not creating turnovers. I don't call that a created turnover. That was just a bad throw by an inexperienced quarterback. This isn't we made a play on the ball. Still credit goes to Kaufman for making it. I'll say D+. Yeah, I don't see any reason to give them any higher than that. Just still getting gashed at some points. They're missing tackles on the run game too when we need them to make those tackles. So it's just not good all the way around. So defensive grades, everybody can grade that as a whole now. What say you, Austin?
I had 2 C- and 1 D+. You average it out, I've got about a C- altogether. We mentioned Derek Mason on this stream before, and a lot of people were excited. And he's a very high energetic guy. I think he's a great guy. But I don't think when you can't make adjustments 10 games into the year, now 11 games into the year, I don't care what you're used to doing or who the personnel you have, the adjustments have not been made. And Auburn's on 2 embarrassing losses, a streak of 2 embarrassing losses because of it.
Yep.
So it's a C- for me. Derek Mason's play calling might be further down, but the players are playing with what they've been told, and so it's a C- for me. Players can execute better. I'm not saying that. I know Demetrius Davis put out a tweet and said, "Why are we bashing our coaches? Players need to execute better." He's right.
Right.
But as I said earlier, your job as a coach, I don't care if you're an analyst or all the way to the head coach, your job is to put your players in the best position to succeed, whether it's win, lose, for them to succeed. That is your entire job. That's not happened, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
And
so, overall,
let me say this too about questions about coaches. Should somebody be fired? Should somebody leave? All that kind of stuff. I'm again, I grant you that I tend to be the let me paint some lipstick on this pig here type of person. Try to as best I can. And I said I couldn't do that on the reaction show, but I'm going to try to here. I like that that's coming out of a guy like Demetrius Davis, who's sitting on the bench right now behind 2 other quarterbacks. And what if Auburn fans, please hear me on this. If we can somehow get to the other side of this, and I know I think you can make a solid case that maybe Mason needs to go, Bobo needs to go, maybe Harsin needs to go. Maybe not Harsin, but you can make a case one way, and you could probably have some validity to it. But what I like, and what I've always viewed this year as setting the foundation for something brand new. Those things right there, a player stepping up for his coach and saying, "This is on us too." You saw that under Malzahn, but the fact that you're already seeing that under Harsin means they're buying into this. And that's quite a statement after what most of these players went to. A guy like Demetrius Davis, who was brought in for Malzahn's offense.
Absolutely.
That's what he was tailor-made to do. And so now I would just say take solace in that if you can. And I understand if you can't, though, because it is a very frustrating time right now. Let's talk about special teams, but I do want to I had to go back and find it. Lee asked, do you guys agree with the call against Auburn on the last punt by South Carolina, since we're going to talk about special teams?
What do you expect at this point, folks? What do you expect? No, I don't agree with the call. But I mean, like that when they started talking, I went back and watched it like 40 times. When they started talking, RG3, who a whole other conversation about his commentary of the game. RG3 and the other guy are talking, and they immediately they're like, oh, there's no way. That's absurd. And then you see the shot of the South Carolina Jumbotron going back and forth with the ball. It was right then. It was like, there's no shot. This ball. I don't know what indisputable means anymore. I'd like to think I'm a pretty educated person, proud of my degree from Auburn University. I don't know what the word indisputable means. And because that wasn't it. So now I want to be very clear. That does not lose Auburn the game at all. Auburn's still got to go down the field with like 2 minutes left and get a touchdown to win. And we all know they're not going to use Tanks Bigsby on the way. So I don't agree with the call on the review, but at the same time, I don't know what you people expect anymore, because that was just tailor-made for an Auburn screw job.
Let me give you the definition via Google of indisputable. Indisputable, an adjective, unable to be challenged or denied. Is there anything from that frame that showed you that this call could indisputably and unchallenged be overturned? Absolutely not. Now, on the flip side, I'm playing devil's advocate.
And you're about to bring up what I'm about to say. Go ahead.
On the flip side, I don't know if I am, but maybe I saw one angle where I could probably, if I really, really, really was wanting to, if I was a fan of the other team, make a case and say, well, maybe the nose of the ball tilted a little bit awkwardly than it would have. So there's your evidence. But was it indisputable? No. I don't know if that's what you were going to say.
It's not, but that's okay.
Okay.
The other thing here is, and I've seen people make this claim, and I don't disagree with it. Now, we're in the position of reviewing to see if this is right. So it was still wrong. However, Demetrius Robertson has to go get that ball.
Yep.
Go catch it. You're going to get lit up. If you called fair catch, that's fine. You're probably still going to get hit, but go get the ball. Jalen Simpson, get out of the way. And that's just the same. And we're moving into the special teams miscues. It's just special teams has not been a good, what's been such a solid area for Auburn for a long time has not been positive this year. And so between that boneheaded call and the boneheaded being in the wrong spot on that punt return, with Ben Patton missing a 25-yard field goal, I know he's not a Carlson boy, but 25 yards, look, you're on scholarship. 25-yard field goal.
Try that again. You're on what?
You're on scholarship. Yeah.
You're
on
so
scholarship.
Angry.
So it was bad. And then we, Dusty brought up the flags on the kick returns. They can't do it. And if Bryan Harsin apparently has said it, you got to take the ball at the 25 and play the 75-yard field, because you're going to be stuck further back. The special teams gets an F for me. It's just been bad. It's been 3 or 4 weeks now.
Yeah, it's an F for me too. And if you guys would like to grade it, but I don't think that there's many people that can make it. Listen, we want to give credit to Ben Patton for stepping up and taking up. But
absolutely.
You made the longer one. Why, and I'll be honest with you, I looked at Jessica when we were watching this game. I said, he's missing this kick. I'm a former kicker. I don't know if I'm in tune. I don't know if I'm in tune with kickers or something, but I just was like, he's missing this one, because it just didn't feel right to me about the situation we were putting him in. He probably was a little, not overconfident after making his first one, but it's just kind of like, oh, now I can relax. And then that one goes, off to the side there a little bit. So I don't know. Frustrating, but it's not just kicker. The only bright spot again continues to be Oscar Chapman. So you hate giving him an F, but there's just issues to be abound everywhere. Easiest group to coach, special teams, and can't do nothing. I wouldn't call it easy, but easier than offense and defense, maybe. So I guess technically I just made his point that it's easier if that's the only 3 teams. But I know that's not what you mean by that. Yeah, F-. Charlie. I always love these comments.
No.
We need to just get J-Boy to coach special teams at Auburn. I never get these comments. I'm not. Never mind. Listen, nothing against J-Boy or anything like that. I think I love all of their Auburn creators. I think they do a great job. But I'm just always interested that come in here and name drop J-Boy. I'm like, I'm not picking on you, Charlie.
Do you think J-Boy wants to coach special teams at Auburn?
J-Boy don't want no part of that.
Nobody
wants
great.
Part of this.
Yeah.
Nobody
Let Jake do his thing.
Yeah, Jake's got enough success on his own. He doesn't need to leave that anytime soon. He doesn't
not
need
us. He doesn't need us grading him every week. He's doing just fine.
And I just find that interesting. Anyway, all right. We've graded offense, defense, special teams, all that good stuff. If you want to just anything left to say about South Carolina?
No, I don't have anything. I mean, let me get my bag back out. No, I mean, folks, it's a new year of a new coach. Here's the punches that we're rolling with. So, hang in there. I'm not going to act like I'm overly optimistic about next weekend, because I'm not. I always believe in a little Jordan Hare magic. I just hope this team can understand the importance of this game. So I think they will, because this is the Iron Bowl, and this game means something to Alabama people and to Auburn people. I hope it means something to this coaching staff, their first time in it. But I hope Saturday is still the same environment we've all expected to come of the Iron Bowl, and it's going to be fine. Okay, it's going to be fine.
It's going to be fine. It's fine.
Y'all just better hope Gus doesn't come to Birmingham and play us.
Imagine the Christmas lights. Imagine the Christmas. I'm going to blow past that. Christmas lights behind me are aflame, right now. It's fine. We're good.
It's fine. Yeah,
we're fine. We're fine. We're fine. Yeah, that's what I feel like at times during moments like this. Yeah, I can't really say much more to to say anything on top of what you've said there. Just enjoy this season. Yeah, everybody's complaining about it now. This sucks. I don't want to ever watch this again. You'll be back watching it the same next year, even if it's the same squad again. So just enjoy what you have. We didn't almost have football last year.
That's right.
Pollyanna, this thing. So just take it for what it's worth. We'll take this question. Serious question, though. Do you guys think Bobo is more focused on being balanced than attacking a weakness? That's a fair question. I think he probably, if I'm just reading into situations, I think he's tried to be more aggressive at times to a fault and gotten burned. And so now that's probably what's happened. If I'm just kind of reading the room, so to speak.
My short answer is yes.
Yeah,
I do think so.
It's a great question. And I think it
explains certain things.
It does.
But I mean, I'll never know that for certain, but I think Tank getting taken out, a run, what's the opposite of that? I guess Tank getting taken out, or then trying to shove the run game when it's just not working. I think about Georgia toward the end there, kind of play into that. So it stinks, but I don't think that's an unfair question at all. And great point, Corey.
Yes, it sucks, but it will get better. And we're still Auburn fans.
That's right.
That's all you need right there. If I can just tie a bow on everything. All right, we're putting this one away. We're not talking about it again. It's done. It's over with. Hopefully I won't have to be saying this again next week. Iron Bowl this week. Be here Wednesday night for a live stream at 8 p.m. Central Time, Eastern Time. Kyle, you're not in Alabama. And we'll talk about the Iron Bowl and do predictions and all that stuff. Should be interesting. We'll also be live tomorrow night, 8 p.m. for our live stream, weekly live stream we're doing about basketball. We'll preview the tournament and everything like that. Lots of fun and exciting things this week, even though the football stuff's not so fun right now. Go to manscaped.com, use that code E2C to help support them and us this holiday season and get yourself some pretty good deals on top of that. Links in the description as well if you want to take advantage of those things. For myself, for Austin, thank you guys for joining us. And Austin's got the bag back on his head. Until we talk to you again,